Hi there. Greetings and welcome to Mondays with Nicolette. Thank you so much for joining me for part 4 of this 4-part series on finding your focus, where I've been sharing research-based information on mindfulness as well as actionable strategies that you can implement to boost your concentration, your productivity, and improve your overall well-being. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please go ahead and do so that you will not miss the next episodes. And let's jump into this episode. So I'm really excited today to bring this all together and to talk one more time about the intersection between focus and mindfulness. So I've already shared that the definition of focus is simply the ability to direct our awareness as well as our effort towards one task for a certain amount of time, whether we designate that amount of time or until the task is complete. And mindfulness means paying attention to the present moment in the present moment. So not focusing on the past, not focusing on the future, but actually focusing on what is before us right now in the here and now. So again, if you think about it, on a very practical level, that is exactly what it means to focus, to pay attention to what is going on in front of us in the here and now until that action or that activity is complete, or until we have determined that this is a time enough to set it aside and to move on to something else. So since I've been talking a lot about how to find our ability to focus in the last 3 sessions, in this session, I'm going to be talking more about how to fuel our focus. So once we've found our ability to focus, or at least we know how to start developing our focus, we want to know, well, how do we keep it going? How do we say, well, now that I have determined that I want to be more focused, how do I keep it going? How do I elevate or enhance my ability to do so? So today I'm going to be talking about the 5 key ways to fuel our focus. So I'm going to start with our intention. So briefly, what is intention? Intention is simply, what is it that we want to feel, and how do we want to be? Intention operates on a subconscious level, whereas for the most part, most of our goals and aspirations are on a conscious level. We know that we want to make a certain amount of money. We want to lose a certain amount of weight. We want to achieve certain goals by a certain amount of time. Those are all great because goals give us something to look forward to, things that we can do that when we achieve them, we feel good about. However, our intention is actually what fuels the motivation for carrying out the goals, because the intention is the big reason why we want to do this thing or achieve these particular goals. So for example, a really relatable goal. We said we want to lose 5 pounds, want to lose 10 pounds, want to lose 25 pounds, whatever amount of pounds, right? If we want to do that as something that will be measurable at the end, that we can say, oh, wow, I wanted to lose 5 pounds. I actually did lose 5 pounds. Achieving that goal isn't necessarily the intention behind the goal. The intention behind the goal is to feel a certain way. It's to be a certain way. And once you determine that that is why you want to accomplish the goal, it'll keep you going in those moments where willpower is not enough. It's thinking about the reason behind the goal. So we start out thinking, you know what, I need to focus. Life would be so much better for me if I could focus. I'd be much more productive. I'd have better work relationships, better personal relationships. I'll be able to get more done. All of that is well and good, but you have to have the intentionality behind that goal in order to really be sustained in accomplishing it. So you want to make sure that one of the ways that you fuel your ability to focus is to start thinking of yourself as someone who is able to focus and someone who wants to grow in your ability to focus. So you want to set that intention as someone that you want to be. You want to be a person who can concentrate and who is capable of focusing on whatever it is that you determine it worthwhile and important to focus on. So intention is the first way to fuel our focus. The other way to fuel our focus is by staying hydrated. water is so important. And I know that I don't have to belabor this point because at this time, there's so much information on why water is important, why we should drink it. We know that our body is comprised of mainly water and that there are so many good things about water for why we should drink it. So I'm not going to spend a long time on that, but I do want to talk specifically about how it helps our ability to concentrate. One of the main indicators of a lack of focus is lack of hydration. Anytime we start to feel that we can't really focus on a task, the first thing to do is to drink a glass of water. So hydration is very important. I said that I won't belabor it, but I do want to mention a few of the benefits of drinking water. We know that drinking water or staying hydrated fights fatigue. It improves our mood. It helps if you are a person like me who suffers from headaches or migraines. It also helps with our ability to digest our food, to flush out toxins, to combat constipation. It aids us in our ability to lose weight by, again, flushing out those toxins and all the additional fat. It improves our skin conditions, which is awesome. And it also helps us to prevent muscle cramps. So there are a lot of great reasons to make sure that we stay hydrated. And for most people, the recommended amount for full hydration is anywhere from 85 to 100 ounces of water, which might seem like a lot, but that's the optimal amount to keep all systems going. So you want to try to make sure that from the time you wake up, that one of the first things that you do in the morning, even before eating, is that you drink some water. It's better to drink warm water than cold water, but whatever kind of water you drink, it's better to drink some water than no water. And then once you start to try to pace that out over the day, so that by the end of the day that you have consumed at least 100 ounces of water or more. So the second key to fueling our ability to focus is our nutrition. So this is very, very important. So in order to be able to concentrate on anything, we know that we need to set the intention to concentrate. We need to be well hydrated, but we also need to be giving our body what it needs in order to perform optimally. And part of our performance is our ability to focus, and that's where our nutrition comes in. So I want you to really pay attention to this because I know most of this information you probably have heard a million times, but maybe not directly connected to focus and or mindfulness. So I really want to make that connection for you if you haven't heard it connected in that way before. So if you think about your body as a vehicle, right? Your body is the vehicle that we use to get through this thing called life. So like our cars come with, specifications for what kind of fuel to put in it. Most cars say that, you should use some premium fuel in this car if you really want it to perform the way it should. And it's the same thing with our body. We can put, cheap gas in there and it'll get us around, but we will notice right away the effects of the cheap gas in the car because the car won't run well. You'll notice things happening with it that you don't like. And it's the same thing with our body. We put a lot of junk in our body and we still survive. But if we're making better choices and our goal is to be intentional about the choices that we make to fuel our body, which then in turn fuels our ability to concentrate, we want to make sure that we are giving our body the best possible fuel in order to do what we want it to do. So the first way to do that is by eating every 2 to 3 hours. Every time I tell someone this, they freak out immediately because it feels like they're constantly eating. And if you think about it, you're kind of eating every time you turn around because 2 to 3 hours goes by pretty quickly. However, it's not eating a full meal every 2 to 3 hours. It's just taking a small snack in at least every 2 to 3 hours so that you aren't allowing your body to get to the point of where you are really, really hungry, where you may not make the best food choices. So you want to make sure that you stay running on all cylinders every 2 to 3 hours. Another way to think about it is think about your body as a huge fire pit inside. So you want to keep the fire burning by keeping it stoked every 2 to 3 hours. When we allow that fire to go down, which is our metabolism, when we throw the food on top of the fire, it's not really going to digest or cook as well as if we had that raging fire going all the time, which is by fueling our metabolism by eating something healthy every 2 to 3 hours. So next, I want to talk about some of the things that we should not eat in order to fuel our body properly. So when we think about the metaphor that I gave about our bodies being that vehicle that we want to fuel with premium fuel, the low grade junk fuel that we usually put in our bodies all has something in common, and that's a lot of sugar. Sugar is the number one thing that we should work very hard to limit and or eliminate from our diet. But it's so hard to do that because it's everywhere. It's in everything that we quickly turn to. But if we make a conscious effort at reducing it, at least we know we're making a step in the right direction. So we want to eliminate as much white sugar as well as brown sugar from our diet. I know that some people think that brown sugar is actually better than white sugar, but it isn't. And in some cases, it's even worse. So you want to make sure that you try to limit as much white and brown sugar as you can. You also want to try to limit, if not eliminate, white flour. So white flour makes a lot of really good tasting things like white bread, pizza dough, pasta, all kinds of dessert treats, pastries, white rice. A lot of breakfast cereals are made with white flour as well. So that's a lot of things to limit and to eliminate from our diet. But it's all for our own betterment. So if we can do that, it would be great. Now, I know for me, I'm a big carb eater. Carbs are my nemesis. I love bread, so when I hear these things and I say these things, it's like, well, okay, if I can't eat any of those things, then what do I eat? So I make some choices. So like I said, it's hard to completely eliminate, but I try to limit some of them. So what are some of the things that I would use as an upgrade or a trade on a few of those? So one is monk fruit sweetener. So instead of using white sugar or brown sugar or even some of the other sweetener replacements, like I was a big Equal and Splenda drinker because I thought, okay, well, it's not sugar, but those are not good for you. So now I've made the switch to monk fruit sweetener, which is not aspartame, and it also has the same non-caloric benefits, if you will, as some of those other sweetener replacements, but it's better than those. It's better than aspartame. And it also is not sugar, so it doesn't increase our cortisol level. So that's one upgrade or trade. So there's sweet potatoes, vegetables, which are also carbs, butternut squash, cauliflower bread, Ezekiel bread is a great non-white bread choice, and there's also white bread. So those are some of the alternatives to white bread. And then there's a host of all types of other flours that you can use to make some of the things that are typically made with white flour if you are into baking your own breads and things like that. So those are some of the swaps that you can make. In terms of other fuels that are foods to eat. Now, when I think about, what are the things that you're going to eat every 2 to 3 hours in order to stay properly fueled and running optimally, some of the great premium fuel that you can use, oatmeal is number one. Everybody should be eating oatmeal every day, at least one time during the day, for a lot of fiber and also all the nutrients that it provides. Dark chocolate is another one. Avocados. Blueberries is a very healthy brain food that helps us to focus. Coconut oil is really good as well for that. Walnuts, almonds, pistachios, spinach, kale, and broccoli are the good leafy greens that you want to make sure that you are getting a lot of, as well as salmon. We know hands down for the omega-3s in salmon, as well as sardines, which are much cheaper than salmon. They also pack a lot of omega-3s that helps our ability to focus. So those are some of the premium foods that I recommend that you get in those small snacks or the meals that you would have every 2 to 3 hours. So another part of fueling our ability to focus or helping ourselves to focus is our location. I mentioned it in the last session, and I'll mention it again because it's very important. Where we choose to do whatever it is that we have to do is very important because we are putting our brain as well as our body in the space for whatever it is that we have to do. So if we know, and again, this is all about knowing yourself. Some people work really well around other people, and others just don't. They need to have less stimuli going. So that means fewer people, sounds, noise, and so forth. Other people thrive in that kind of environment. So for those people, if you know that you need to get into a space that has more people, one of the things that people would do they would go to the cafe or somewhere like that. Now that we aren't doing that right now, you can bring the cafe to you. While you're working on whatever your task is, you can be playing cafe sounds in the background. There is a lot of research to support that we are actually more productive when there is some level of ambient noise in the background. So if that works for you, you can do that. Another way of simply changing our location in order to fuel our focus also applies to just a mental change. So if you know that right now you're doing something and you're working on it, but you notice that every few seconds you start to zone out, then that means you need to actually take a location break. Simply moving from one space in your home, if you happen to be in your home, to another place in your home. So for example, if you're sitting at the counter, you want to move to the kitchen table. If you're sitting at the kitchen table, you might want to move to the counter or to another chair that has a different type of setup. Maybe you want to move to a desk. So all of those things sort of just break up the mental space as well as the location space. If you cannot physically get up and go to somewhere else where you'd be able to focus a little bit more, then you need to find other ways to do that. But that's another great way of helping ourselves to do what we have to do by allowing ourselves to concentrate on the task, by eliminating or bringing in whatever that stimuli is that we need in order to help us to do so. And then last but not least, cannot end a session on focus without talking about meditation. So by this time, I hope that you understand that meditation is not something that takes years and years and years of practice. It doesn't take a lot of energy to do it. It doesn't take a lot of time. That to truly meditate can be done in anywhere from 5 seconds to 50 minutes. It is your choice. So meditating simply means taking an intentional moment to focus inward as opposed to focusing on something external. So when you take that moment to breathe in, breathe out, that is a meditation. If you can take a little longer to do some deep belly breathing, that's a meditation. If you can spend 5 minutes or even less just being mindful of walking around your home, walking around your neighborhood, or walking around your neighborhood park, that's meditation. So there are so many ways that you can get in your meditation without thinking that they take a lot of time or that you have to black out, hour or so to meditate. Yes, would it be better to spend more time in meditation? To an extent. With anything that you do, if you're simply doing it without really being intentional about doing it, then you're not going to reap the benefits of it, and then you'll be spending time instead of investing time in doing something that's going to help you. You're just wasting time, basically, just doing something that isn't going to produce the benefit that you want. So you want to be intentional. If you can be very intentional about taking 3 mindful breaths, that will have a greater impact than you sitting in supposed meditation for an hour and not really meditating. So I want you to know that one of the ways to improve your focus is by taking whatever time that you can dedicate to actually meditating and dedicating some form of introspection on yourself and on improving your overall well-being through these practices. So this week, speaking of practices, the practice for fueling ourselves and fueling our bodies is mindful eating. So we are going to take some time to think about how and why we eat by practicing mindful eating this week. So there's going to be a guided practice that I will link to this video, but I'm just going to tell you a little bit very quickly about what you're going to do this week. So every time you eat, you're going to bring your full attention and focus to your meal. You are going to notice if your mind begins to wander, just as you have been doing earlier with the practices. As soon as your mind starts to wander, you're going to simply bring it back to the task at hand, which is in eating and enjoying your meal. You're going to notice if you think about things that you need to do while you're eating. And you're going to also notice, are you doing other things while you're eating, or are you just eating? And last but not least, I want you to notice if you are eating so quickly that you're not necessarily even tasting what you're eating. So those are all components of mindful eating. And as I said, there's going to be a guided practice that you can listen to that talks a little bit more about mindful eating. And be sure to be on the lookout for the 15-day challenge for mindful eating, where each day I'll be giving a little tip on how to bring more mindfulness to our eating experience. So look out for that as well. But for now, just know that this week, the practice is going to be to bring your full attention and focus to your food. Okay, so that wraps up this series on finding your focus. It has been my pleasure sharing this information with you. I would love for you to subscribe to this channel. Again, if you haven't already done so, make sure that you do, so you'll be sure to be notified of the next round of series, as well as the self-care challenges and anything else that I put out. So be sure to like these videos as well, to drop some comments in the comment boxes. I'm open. If you have any feedback, if you have any questions that were not answered in the series, I will definitely answer them there in the comments. Please also visit my website at educatezen.org to check out all the good stuff that's over there too, and to follow me on Twitter at Nicolette James. So once again, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you again in the near future.